Day. Item number 14 is we have a request from Mr. Darrell Easton to address the City Council. Will you come forward, please?
Good evening, City Council, Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you this evening. I've talked about this subject in public comments before, but obviously you cannot provide feedback at that time. So I've taken the opportunity to request to be put on the agenda so that you can respond to some of these issues. You all represent me and the people out here, and it's tough to write a letter to everybody and get a letter back from everybody or to catch you individually in a separate conversation to discuss this issue. So I've taken this opportunity. But before I start, I guess I better give full disclosure. I've been labeled a radical Tea Party member by a sitting city council member. I've been labeled as unfit for public office by a former state representative. And just last week I learned that some time ago the city secretary called me a troublemaker. So with that, I'll start my presentation. And let's see if I can get to the next slide. My topic tonight is government transparency. We hear that in just about every election that ever takes place. It was a key issue on my campaign last May for the City Council. But I need to refine it just a little bit. And what is my definition of transparency? First of all, you should publicly notify the citizens of meetings and so forth. You do a good job of that. You fulfill the minimum requirement of the 72-hour notice on almost anything that I've ever seen. There's occasionally when you have a possibility of a quorum where the notice might be slightly different because you're going to a separate function, but that's understandable. The location of your meetings is obviously critical to be accessible to the citizens. And of course, 3 years ago, that was one of my big issues with the City Council was they were taking a meeting to 50 miles out of the city limits. At time of day, you know. For example, the 4 o'clock pre-meeting is very difficult for many citizens to get to because that's the end of the day and many folks can't take their time off to come to that pre-council meeting. So the timing there is retired folks can come, and that's when I started, you know, after I got retired, I could make these meetings. The duration of the meetings, of course, you know, somebody sitting through 4 or 5 hours of lengthy meetings is tough. And then, of course, whether it's open to the public or not. You have reasons and justifiable reasons for closed meetings, like you had earlier today, to discuss personnel issues and so forth. But those meetings could also, after a period of time, the material you discussed at those closed meetings could be made available to the public because the need for their being closed, such as a negotiation with a contractor and so forth, no longer exists after you've settled the agreement. So, you know, these are things that I think come into the government transparency issue, making them available to the citizens of the city, the state, and the national government. We have that in most of we have C-SPAN for the federal government negotiations in their meetings. Texas legislature puts on Texas Legislature Online, and you can view them online at home. You know, you can watch the conference meetings and all that taking place at home. So therefore, let me see what my next slide is. The other transparency factors are is it only available through an open records request? Or is it available on the internet? The internet has obviously made great advances in transparency of government. And we have a fairly good internet website for the city of Euless. I can pull up the budget. I can pull up the proposed budget after weeks before it's going to be talked in the budget planning meeting. So a lot of that is good, okay? And the timeliness and availability of the records. I've highlighted, put the EDC in here and the CCPD. Because you have a meeting, you may not have another meeting for 3 months. And those meeting minutes are not available until they're approved. So, but they could be put online if you took an audio or an audio-visual of them, because they don't have to be approved. That's the actual thing of what happened right then and there. You don't have to wait 3 months for a citizen to get access to what happened at a EDC meeting or Crime Control Prevention District meeting or even your budget planning meetings. You know, I remember 3 years ago after I found out you go to Kaufman, I asked for, the agenda was online, but it said 3 days in Kaufman, Texas. There were no definitive explanations on at least 4 of the 5 years I looked at. And then I called down and asked if there were meeting minutes for that budget planning meeting. The first response out of the city secretary's office was, no, we don't do many meeting minutes for that. About 2 hours later, I got a call back that says, yes, we have some meeting minutes for that. So I went down and got them, and there were, the agenda was, we're going to discuss these items, and the meeting minutes was, we discussed these items. You know, there's no definition of what the discussions were about those particular issues. And whether they're available on the city website. So let's compare Euless to some of our neighboring cities with regards to the publishment, particularly of the city council meeting. Bedford, you can go online and you can watch it on the local channel that Bedford has for the city of Bedford. It's live. And it's also archived. The nice thing about that, if you've never visited the website, I encourage you to do so. If you're interested in a particular agenda item, you can go to their website, pull up the audio visual, I mean it's both. You can hear them while they're talking. And you can click to the agenda item you want, and it takes you to that place in the meeting. Hearst. Hearst is kind of about like Euless, except I downloaded I was talking to a city council member in Hearst, and he gave me a heads up. In the December 5th, 2013 city council meeting, the background is, after careful research and evaluation, the city staff is recommending a project to install and operate equipment to record city council meetings, which will be made available for viewing on the city website and the program for the future on their channel, the cable channel. So Hearst is coming on board. The only issue I have about that is it's a $55,000 contract, which I think is a little excessive for getting this stuff on board. I have no idea what the city of Bedford is doing. Colleyville, they web stream their meetings, the pre-council session, as well as the regular session. Grapevine, they're only doing an audio, much like the city of Euless, but it's available for download on their website. Here in Euless, when I missed the meeting in December, I had to go to city secretary and ask that it be uploaded through an email link. Well, it's too large a file for email, so we finally found a Google way to do it. I forget what the Google storage is, but uploaded it to Google and then I could download it from Google. But it should be available with a link on the city website. It makes it easily accessible to the citizens. But we know that audio, if you've ever listened to the audio just without pictures, you know, they say pictures are worth 1,000 words. So it's very difficult to follow any presentation that is made if you're just listening to audio. So I asked the city secretary whether I could get the slides that you present here, and she cooperated and gave me a copy of the PDF documents or a set of slides, and then with the audio and the slides, you can kind of listen to the audio and go through. although you generally have to back it up once or twice. Arlington, they do much like Colleyville and Bedford. And Euless, we already know what we do here. Now, what I've been doing over the last 6-8 months is I've been with my camera in the back, doing an audio visual. And this, if I just had this to thumb through, I wouldn't know much, you know. But I'll present to the, if you could turn the video on that portion and adjust the audio. This was a briefing on the project plan update. I'm not going to play very much of it, but let's see if I can get the audio here.
We can hear it back here, but not in the sound system.
Okay. Well, anyway, I put this stuff on YouTube. You know, I've got a YouTube account, and I go home and I'll break this city council meeting up into the presentations, and I'll break it up into some of the agenda items and post it on YouTube. So we have about 5-6 months worth of YouTube stuff out there. I haven't quite got to the viewer capacity of the Duck Dynasties, but we're getting close. No. But anyway, there are viewers out there that do watch this on a period basis. It's kind of connected through my Facebook page that's Euless Open Government Forum. And I just think it's time for Euless to move ahead in the availability of technology to make this stuff accessible on the internet. And I would like each city council member to respond to that, if they could. Maybe I'll start over here with Mr. Bynum. And what would be your objections to the city developing a plan, much like Hearst is doing, and the other cities on making the meetings available to the citizens on a more easily accessible mode?
Mayor, can I respond? Okay. Mr. Easton, first of all, I want to say thanks for coming down here. I want to thank you for your services to our country. And I'm not prepared to comment one way or the other on this. It's interesting what you have here. I work for a city that has it. I don't know what their viewership is, but I want to say thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Porter?
I agree with your assessment that there is a need for citizen involvement in our activities. I really don't believe personally that there is a great need to spend taxpayer money to facilitate what you're describing. I know that other cities may have done it, but in the city of Euless, our meetings are always open to anyone who wants to come see what happened. And I really don't feel there's a need to expend much money at all in this regard.
Well, sir, just to address the cost issue a little bit, the camera I have back there is $1,000. The storage that I've got to store this, it cost me less than $100, and I've got every meeting that's been on there that I've filmed. Okay, so the cost there is almost zero. You already have the website. The website's available. It's easy to develop a link. You have the recording already of the audio. You have the slides. I bet you could do this for less than $75 to $100 a meeting. You spent $6,500 to go to Kaufman to hide meetings from the citizens. But to make it difficult for citizens to attend. I can tell you that's what happened. That's the first impression I got when I saw you guys were taking meetings Kaufman. But it's not going to cost you a lot of money, I can guarantee you that. You don't need to spend $55,000 that Hearst is doing, that's for sure.
I'm sure that you may have good information on the amount of money that you have spent. But when the city starts doing a project like this, there are certain requirements that are always included that cost money. Why do you think Hearst is spending $55,000? It's not because they couldn't have gotten by on a cheaper route. It's because they have to meet certain standards. They have to meet certain retention requirements. They have to do all kinds of things that you as an individual don't have to do, but a city would have to do, and it would cost money. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate if the staff would maybe just prepare something like that. But I don't.
Mr. Easton, thank you so much for coming this evening and preparing something for us. I think it's important that our citizens are involved. I think we work hard to get our citizens involved. You make mention that some of our meetings start at 4 o'clock, but this meeting started at 7 o'clock, and we do have citizens here, and I'm grateful that we do have citizens here who are observing, and I thank them all for being here this evening. But I think the city works hard to offer opportunities for people to volunteer and to get involved and to be aware of what's happening with our city. Thank you for your presentation.
Mayor?
Thank you for coming tonight and giving us another presentation of what we've heard before. I feel that our citizens are well known on what we're doing. We have first ones to put up a website. We do start our meetings at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We're the only city that does that. But we have a 3-hour work session that is open to all of our citizens, and you know it. You've been there for 3 years. You learn an awful lot at the work session. Then we come to City Council. We repeat it again. I've never heard anyone but you say they did not get enough information. I think we provide it well. We look at our costs, and we've certainly been under 3 years of downturn. We're coming up in a great time right now, and I like what we have right now, and so do my citizens.
Well, just, I missed a couple of meetings, one in October, and I missed one
December.
in December.
We counted.
Yeah. You probably clapped while I wasn't here. But anyway, it's hard to reconstruct your pre-council meeting. Even me knowing what goes on. I got the slides, the audio, I requested a set of the slides, but it's impossible to go through the slides and know. And even if I wait for the meeting minutes to come out, nearly a month later now, I mean, they were published 3 days ago for the meeting minutes, the written meeting minutes for that meeting. It's impossible to, and a lot of people, a lot of citizens will get discouraged because of all the, the steps you have to go through to reconstruct your meeting minutes. But I'll go on to, maybe the city manager wants to speak. This is one of those situations where I can explain it to you a dozen times, but I can't understand it for you.
No, you need to.
Pardon?
You asked for the council's response, and we work at the direction of the council, so it's, I'm as interested as you are in what they have to say. So we'll let you go down the line.
Ms. Clark?
Much like Mr. Porterfield, cost is a huge consideration. You spend a lot of time doing the videos, editing them, putting them online. We would have to pay a staff member for all that time. I would truly have to evaluate viewership interest versus cost and then the additional cost of staff time and everything else. So thank you for being here.
No, I just, my campaign was basically on videotaping, opening the government up to videotaping. There's over 900, or right at 900 citizens out there to check the block for more open government. Now, I know you guys did not run on an anti-open government campaign that I know of, but I did run on an open government campaign, and those 900 people knew what I was running for. So there is interest out there, I can assure you. All the doors I knocked on, the people expressed an affirmative reaction to that. So you might just talk to some of your citizens about that can't make it to their meetings on a regular basis. Thank you. Mr. Hawk?
After what you called me tonight, indirectly or directly,
I'm sorry?
after what you called us doing tonight, which is very untrue. I have no comment to you except the transparency thing could begin with somebody that has 2 homesteads. Thank you.
I do not have 2 homesteads. I have 1 homestead. My wife owns a house solely in her name. I own a house solely in my name. I will be as transparent as that as you want. The Euless house has been my permanent residence ever since I bought it in 1994. And you
I
can
didn't say
argue.
you had 2 homesteads.
You did.
No, I didn't.
You did too.
I did not.
I'll play it back for you, sir.
Play it back all you want.
Okay, Mr. Stanton.
Mr. Easton, let's take it one point at a time. Let's talk about Kaufman. Actually, I'm kind of glad we don't go to Kaufman because I used to have to take a vacation day from work to go there. To the ranch house, which is what it was. Since we've moved it back to town, you're the only one going. Now, Miss Eilenfeld went to every one of them before she got on council. I've looked at your viewership on YouTube. A lot of them get 3 hits. One of those was me when I looked at it. Nobody's looking at it. Not Duck Dynasty, not Donald Duck. Nobody's looking at it because there may have been, you did receive approximately 900 votes. But it wasn't for open government because none of those people are looking at your websites. Again, I really don't have a problem. I had to get one time when I was gone, I missed a meeting, and I was told you had said something about me at the meeting. I got the audio recording, heard it clear as a bell. Had absolutely no problem understanding a meeting that I was not at from the audio recording. I would have no issue at all if we could figure out a way to have the audio recording on a link on the website. I see no problem with that. It's already there. It's available to anybody that asks for it. So, yeah, I don't know what it would cost. I don't know what mechanizations would have to happen, but I would have no problem with doing that. Putting video on there, I see no need for it. The work session, I see no need for it. The work session is there. I work for a living. I make them all. It's tough.
Well, there's
But again, I'm not done yet, okay?
Okay.
You asked for a response, I'm giving you a response. All right? We've had the February work session always been here in town. Nobody comes to it. The citizens seem to trust that the staff and the city council that they elected are doing the right thing. We have a very prosperous city. We've done the job that we were elected to do. I see no reason to go to this expense just for you. Because you're the only one in my 6.5 years on council that's ever asked for it. And I admire that you come to all of our meetings. I think that's a really good thing. But nobody else is interested. They trust us to do our job. They trust the staff to do their job, and they're very happy with their city. I'm sorry you're not happy with your city. I'm sorry that you're not happy with what we're doing. But I don't believe we should change the way we're doing it for one person. And that was my response.
We'll just see. Anyway, that's what I wanted, was a chance for each to respond to that comment. The only thing I want to follow up with is, well, I guess it's HEB School District. They even have their check register online, you know. And there's a lot more availability and accessibility that can be done very cheaply. I would ask that the staff maybe give an estimate of what it would cost to do something very simple as making the audio link available and tying it into a link with the visual presentation at the same time. That would be a major step in making the city council available. Everybody that's in that pre-council meeting has the capability on their government-issued equipment to do an audio recording of it. I would say every iPad you have or every laptop you have can record it. I've recorded the EDC meeting on my cell phone. So it's not going to cost you much, I can tell you that. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Easton. The next item on our agenda is the public comments. So all of you have heard what's happened for the last 10 minutes or so. Would anyone like to come forward and